Hi, so in today's video I am going to implement the date functionality for the activity, and we are going to use a date picker. So here you can see in my screen I have this library here which I found by searching for React date picker, and I found this nice UI picker which depends on the material UI library for React. I still don't know if I need to use that library everywhere or I can just pick this little item here, because so this is very nice. We can see an example here. We have the date and the time, and I press this and I get this nice picker here, and then I can choose the time using this cool picker. AM, PM, okay, it's nice. So it's nicer than the native UI for daytime pickers, which I'm going to show to you. So let's go into in Trello I'm going to pick this card and moving it to doing, add the time and time picker, the date and time picker for the activity. So here is the application, and I want to add this time picker into the app form. And once we have that, I'm going to work on the UI of this form, which is awful now, but I can refactor that once we have all the pieces. So let's go here, and in app.js I'm going to set add activity to the default state of the application, so when I reload I just see this form like we did previously in other videos, because I don't want to have to click the plus button anytime I reload the page. So next I go into the activity detail component. We have the activity location, but before the location I am going to add the activity date component. The activity date component is a component we don't have yet, and I'm going to create it now. Activity date.js. So I'm going to pick this component and just copy and paste this activity date. I'm going to remove everything. Date. I'm going to remove all these things. I'm calling it activity date, and then I remove everything from the map. Alright. So if I save this, I should see the date string appearing. It's not appearing because why? Activity date. Oh, right, I add this to the activity detail component, while I need to add this into the add activity component. So I'm already confusing the things. So let me see here. Activity date. Activity date is a component which. So let me leave this component here, and I'm going to copy this into add activity, and I'm calling this activity date picker. So I can call it just date picker. Date picker. Date picker. So into add activity I'm going to import date picker from add activity date picker. Here's date picker, and I see the date picker string here, and here is where I'm going to work now. So if I go into the material UI picker can see, I need to run this code to install it. So I go in the terminal, press Ctrl C to end the npm start process which was running, and I'm installing the Material UI picker. This says that it supports the data management library. So we need an underlying data management library, which is Moment, I think, because it's the most popular one and the one I know how to use, more or less. So the package was installed. I'm going to install Moment and data.io/moment. Okay, so now I can copy this code here. So the application is done installing. I can run npm start again. So we have our React application up and running. I import the UI picker and then I import the Moment-Utils library, as the example says. Then I'm going to use this component here, passing the Moment-Utils object here. So what is root? This example has a root component, which I don't know what that is. Okay, this is a component. This is a higher order component, and you can see higher order components, search them on my blog because I described them, or on my React handbook. Basically they are wrappers for other components, and inside here I can use the datetime picker component, and I need to use a state. So I have a select the state, handle that change, which we are going to pass to the datetime picker component. I need to import the datetime picker component. So let me first, I need to import the datetime picker component from the Material UI/pickers library. And I also need to import use state from React in order to use hooks. So as you can see now, we don't have any error, and we can see in the application can't resolve Material UI core. I need to install Material UI core. This was my doubt I had. So Material UI is this very cool library which allows you to, it has almost 50,000 stars on GitHub, so it's very, very popular, and provides a lot of components pre-made for us for use. And I mean, we could use that as well. Right now I didn't think about using this, but let's see. Now we have installed it, so if we want to use some component, there is no additional cost. So the application reloads. Let's see if we have any other error. Okay, oh, we have the date picker here, and it's working. It's already working, which is very cool. So whenever now the date or time changes, we want to store this into the activity. So the way to do this is like we did in the map picker component. If you remember, we had this props passed to the picker, which are location and set location, which are the location property of the activity and the setter for this. So those two items come from the add activity component. As you can see, we have the map picker component. We are passing those two things which are defined here as a hook. So right now we define the date and set date time and set the time, and so I think that we pass them here. Date time equals, my dog is sleeping, set date time equals set date time. So we are passing those two things as props to the component, and now inside the date picker component we can use this object destruction syntax, and we have date time and set date time. So on change we are not going to use these two this local state here, but we are going to use set date time on change, and date time is the value for the time picker. And here is an example of how we need to initialize the date to the current date and time. So we are going to remove this because we don't use hooks locally in this component, but we pass the functions and the datetime property from the add activity component. So the initial state for the datetime object is new date. So let me see. We have the current date right now. Perfect. And if we set this to something else, we are going to update this. And let me see. So in the add activity component we store the activity in IndexedDB now, but later we are going to use a server, so we're going to send this data into a server, and we have title, location, description, and I add the datetime too. So this store activity function is passed to add activity in the app.js component. Store activity is this one, it stores this activity object into the database. And in this function we don't need to know the specific properties we are passing, it just dumps the item in the database. So we added the datetime here, and we are set. So now if I say, so this new activity is, for example, went shopping, and the datetime I said that I went shopping on June 1st at 4:16 p.m. At Elephant and Castle, and I say went shopping, and then I press save activity. Okay, we have an error here because I assumed the datetime was at like, I assumed it was a property which could be serialized, but it's not. It's, what is this? So let me see, I can just say console.log datetime to inspect the object, and now I go here and I just press and I say return, so I don't add the item to the IndexedDB. I press save activity, and we got this printed out. Let me see if I change this to something else. it's not really responsive. And now I press save activity. Yeah, I got a moment object. So I had this time object, JavaScript time object, but now set datetime here. It's not working like we expect it to do. So let me just add a new function here, which I'm going to call it set new datetime. Is a function that gets datetime, new datetime, and then this is going to do something and then call set datetime with a new value. Okay, so this is going to call the function from the hook to set the new datetime, and I don't want to use I don't want a moment object. What I want to have is a JavaScript date object. So we have this Stack Overflow answer here, which says that, like, I might just need to do this new datetime to date. Let me see, set new datetime. Let me see if this works. So here I reset, let me use vertical. So I set a new date and then I press OK and I save activity, and we have the date object. So now if I go back to the add activity here, I remove the console log because now the activity should save correctly. So the activity title is went shopping, and this time I went shopping to Paris, and then the activity description is went Paris to shop. Alright, I changed the date to June 10 and I click save activity. So now I got the new activity. Where is the new activity? I don't have the activity in IndexedDB. Where is it? So we have 1, 2, 3. I miss one for some reason. I need to figure out why, but here we have it in IndexedDB. It's this activity, went shopping, and the date time is correct. See, we have Monday, June 10, which was the date and time we set, and we have description, location, the title. I just don't understand why it's not showing up. Let me try. So now I go back to app.js and say that the default state is the activities list. Okay, now I see it. I think that I'm not reloading the list of activities from IndexedDB when I add a new activity. This was the problem. So here we can see the activity, and I can display the date now, because so activity date is the new component from activity date. I'm going to display the activity date before the location. So we pass the date, the date time here, date time, current activity dot date time. So in the date here we receive the date time prop, and I can print it out here. We have an error. What's the problem? Oh right, this is a date object, so I need to say to string. Let me see. Okay, we have the date string, and I need to parse this into a more readable format. So I can say Flavio that JavaScript dates, I think. Okay, JavaScript dates. I want to format the date into a nice string. So to locate string, I think it's already a nicer way to print a string. It is. So I want to show this like in the Balsamiq mockups later. So a nice day and month, and also in the list I want to do this. So let me just do that. So I want to print the day, and so how to print the date is this method get date. The month is I want the month name. Month, get month. Alright, so get month is going to get me the month index. Yeah, let me go to Stack Overflow and say JavaScript month name. Get month name from date. Yeah, we have this nice function. This is famous, world famous copying and pasting from Stack Overflow driven development. So we have this array here. What I want to do actually is Jan, Feb, Mar. So I need to do this manually actually. I like single quotes for no reason at all. So we have April, we have May, we have June, we have June, we have August, we have September, we have October, we have November, and we have December. Alright, then the date, we already have the date, which is the time.get month. So yeah, we have this month. So I'm going to return my dog. So the day is this one, and the month is this one. I need to wrap this into graph parentheses. Let's go back to the app. Let's go back to when shopping. Okay, 10 June. And now I can just say div going to wrap this into a div. So let me use CSS equals. So this emotion library, I kind of like it now. After experimenting for a few days with it, like it. And so let me say that this font size is 2rem. Cool. And also for the day, I think. The day should be bigger actually. So it should be like 4rem or something. Let me see. Oh, nice, nice, nice. So according to the mockups, this should be going into the far right side. So let me focus on the. This is my dog. Woke up. So let me move this thing here. Then I want the activity title, and then I want the map below. So to do this, I'm going to use, guess what? CSS Grid. So I'm going into the activity detail component, and I want to do display. I need to add another wrapper because due to the mobile and desktop view, I had to add this display none or block depending on this show activities property, if you remember from the previous videos. So in order to make another grid into this, I need to have another div. So I'm going to have this div element, and this is going to have its own CSS property, and I'm going to say display grid, and I'm wrapping everything into this well, not everything, only the heading part here, only the h1, the date and the location. So the first thing I want to do is divide the whole thing in two. So basically I'm adding a new div which wraps up the h1 and the location, and then I'm moving the date outside of this, and I'm wrapping this. No, I don't wrap it anywhere because it already contains a div element, if you remember here. So now I'm going to say grid template. I always forget properties, so luckily I can just say CSS grid here to get my tutorial. So columns, grid template rows. Yeah, it was fine. Grid template rows is like auto and like 200 pixels. So what I want to do now, maybe let me set 800 pixels. So let me check with the inspector. So the inspector says that this is the new grid I am making, and yeah, Do we have 800 pixels? Yes. So grid template rows. No, I'm dumb because they are not rows, they are columns. Columns. It was working fine because it made 2 rows. So now we can see, okay, we can see it working. There are just too many pixels. So let me figure this out with 200 pixels and auto. Looking pretty good. So let me remove the map H2 element here. The width is set to 100%. Let me see if this works. It's well, I think that we can probably use 700 pixels maximum, and then we'll figure out the responsive layout. Why isn't it working? Initialize map. So I set this to be because sorry. So I am dumb because I was editing the map picker instead of the activity education component. So I was editing the thing that is in the form to add a new activity. So let me set this to 100%. Yeah, it's working. I just need to add like padding left, I don't know, 30 pixels. No, it should be margin left 30 pixels. Okay, sort of. I want this went shopping string to be not centered, but I want this to be here. The H1 must be text align left, but I will need a margin as well. Okay, I need margin left 30 pixels. Actually, let's make this 50 pixels. Then I go here, 50 pixels. Pretty cool. I just need to add some padding on the location, on the activity date. So I want this div to be margin top 30 pixels. Looks kind of better. And yeah, I want to remove the scroll wheel reaction to this. It's not doing what I want. The next video. So we kind of did it. Let me remove the date picker. I just search for date picker. Here, I remove this string, and I add some style, like padding top 30 pixels, and also padding bottom. Okay. So, okay, I think we are good for this video, and catch you in the next one.